UFC President Dana White recently commented on the latest injury news surrounding one of the organization's former champions, Sean O'Malley. O'Malley, who lost his UFC bantamweight title in a highly anticipated fight against Merab Dvalishvili at Noche UFC on September 14 at the Sphere in Las Vegas, revealed shortly after that he had been battling a torn labrum leading up to the fight. The injury, which will require surgery in early October, raised questions about how athletes perform at such a high level despite significant physical limitations. O'Malley's injury disclosure did not come in the usual manner, such as through a post-fight interview or even his popular podcast. Instead, it came during a live-streamed phone conversation with popular Twitch streamer Adin Ross. The casual nature of the revelation surprised fans, but for Dana White, it didn't seem all that shocking. White was asked about O'Malley's injury during a media session following the 5th episode of the Dana White Contender series. Veteran combat sports journalist Kevin Iole was among the reporters who inquired about O'Malley's injury and whether the UFC has any mechanisms in place to prevent fighters from competing while concealing injuries. Iole asked White how fighters like O'Malley are able to perform at such a high level despite dealing with significant injuries like a torn labrum, and whether the UFC can effectively monitor and prevent fighters from hiding injuries ahead of major bouts. White's response was blunt and straightforward. "You can't," he said. "You know what I mean. If these guys come in and they have something that we don't know, how would the doctors check for a torn labrum? You know what I mean. You can't." White went on to emphasize that fighters are often so determined to compete that they will endure physical pain and injuries just to make it to the octagon on fight night. The UFC's medical staff can only catch injuries that are outwardly apparent or are voluntarily disclosed by the fighters themselves. O'Malley's torn labrum adds to the growing list of fighters who have competed with significant injuries, raising questions about the lengths athletes are willing to go to in order to fulfill their contracts and compete in some of the most important fights of their careers. For O'Malley, the timing of the injury could not have been worse. After securing the bantamweight title in a blockbuster performance against Aljamain Sterling in August, his first title defense at Noche UFC was widely anticipated by fans and pundits alike. However, Dvalishvili proved to be a tough opponent, and O'Malley's injury likely played a role in his inability to maintain the momentum he had built earlier in his career. The torn labrum is a serious injury, especially for a fighter like O'Malley, whose style relies heavily on movement.